刘培元的英文教室知识阅读篇，我们这回顾因为知识阅读篇讲了很多期，我们把它回顾一下。但是我们这边只念英文就是在没有中文，也没有我也没有讲解它意思情况之下，回顾一下纯英文。然后你也可以训练听力听听我讲的。那你也可以照着一边看字一边听我发音也是可以训练听力，或者说你根本不要看画面，不要看字也可以训练听力如果有意思不了解，就回去看。那在之前的知识阅读篇第90、18集里面因为它这个是维基百科里面中国英文的因为比较长，分上下两集。我们先看上集，我们来念。China, officially the People's Republic of China, is a country in East Asia. 我这边顺带说明了动词全部用绿色标起来，这样子我们比较容易阅读。It is the world's most populous country, with a population around 1.4 billion in 2019, covering approximately 9.6 million square kilometers. It is the world's third or fourth largest country by area. As a one-party state led by the Chinese Communist Party, the country is officially divided into 23 provinces, 5 autonomous regions, 4 direct-controlled municipalities, Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, and Chongqing, and the special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau. China emerged as one of the world's first civilizations in the fertile basin of the Yellow River in the North China Plain. China was one of the world's foremost economic powers for most of 2 millennia from the first until the 19th century. For millennia, China's political system was based on absolute hereditary monarchies or dynasties, beginning with the Shang dynasty in 21st century BC. Since then, China has expanded, fractured, and reunified numerous times. In the 3rd century BCE, the Qing reunited core China and established the First Chinese Empire. The succeeding Han saw some of the most advanced technology at the time, including paper-making and the compass, along with agricultural and medical improvements. The invention of gunpowder and movable type in the Tang Dynasty and Northern Song completed 4 great inventions. Town culture spread widely in Asia as the New Silk Road brought traders to as far as Mesopotamia and the Horn of Africa. The Qing Empire, China's last dynasty, suffered heavy losses to foreign imperialism. The Chinese monarchy collapsed in 1912 with the 1911 revolution, where the Republic of China replaced the Qing dynasty. China was invaded by the Empire of Japan during World War II. The Chinese Civil War resulted in the division of territory in 1949, when the CCP led by Mao Zedong established the People's Republic of China on mainland China, while the Kuomintang-led ROC government retreated to the island of Taiwan. China is a unitary one-party socialist republic and is one of the few remaining socialist states. The country is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council since replacing the ROC in 1971. China is a founding member of several multilateral and regional cooperation organizations such as Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the New Development Bank, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and is a member of BRICS nations and the East Asia Summit. It ranks among the lowest in international measurements of civil liberties, government transparency, freedom of press, freedom of religion and ethnic minorities, and practices mass censorship and mass surveillances of citizens. After economic reforms in 1978 and its entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001, China's economy grew to the largest in the world by PBP in 2014 and became the second largest country by nominal GDP in 2010. China is the world's fastest growing major economy, the second wealthiest nation in the world, and the world's largest manufacturer and exporter. The nation has the world's largest standing army, the People's Liberation Army, the second largest defense budget, and is a recognized nuclear weapons state. China has been characterized as an emerging superpower due to its large economy and powerful military. Early dynastic rule. According to Chinese tradition, the third dynasty was the Shah, which emerged around the 2100 BCE. The Shah dynasty marked the beginning of China's political system based on hereditary monarchies or dynasties which lasted for millennia. The dynasty was considered mythical by historians until scientific excavations found early Bronze Age sites at early Tao, Hainan in 1959. It remains unclear whether the sites are the remains of the Shah dynasty or of another country from the same period. The succeeding Shang dynasty is the earliest to be confirmed by contemporary records. The Shang ruled the plain of the Yellow River in eastern China from the 17th to the 11th century BCE. Their archaic bone script represents the oldest form of Chinese writing. It found and is a direct ancestor of modern Chinese characters. The Shang was conquered by the Zhou, who ruled between the 11th and 5th centuries BCE. Their centralized authority was slowly eroded by feudal warlords. Some principalities eventually emerged from the weakened Zhou, no longer fully obey the Zhou king, and they continually waged war with each other in the 300-year spring and autumn period. By the time of the Warring States period of the 5th to 3rd centuries BCE, there were only 7 powerful states left. Imperial China. China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, is famed for having united the Warring States wars to form the greatest war of China. Most of the present structure, however, dates to Ming Dynasty. The Warring States period ended in 221 BCE after the state of Qin conquered the other 6 kingdoms, reunited China, and established the dominant order of autocracy. King Jin of Qin proclaimed himself the first emperor of the Qin dynasty. He enacted Qin's legalist reforms throughout China, notably the forced standardization of Chinese characters, measurements, road webs, and the currency. His dynasty also conquered the Yue tribes in Guangxi, Guangdong, and Vietnam. The Qin dynasty lasted only 15 years, falling soon after the first emperor's death, as his harsh authoritarian policies led to widespread rebellion. Following widespread civil war during the West, imperial library at Shenyang was burned. The Han Dynasty emerged to rule China between 2006 BC and the CE 220, creating a cultural identity among its populace still remembering the ethnicity of the Han Chinese. The Han expanded the empire's territory considerably, with military campaigns reaching Central Asia, Mongolia, South Korea, and Yunnan, and the recovery of Guangdong and northern Vietnam from Nanyue. Han involvement in Central Asia and Siberia have established the land route of Silk Road, replacing the earlier path over the Himalayas to India. Han China gradually became the largest economy of the ancient world, Despite the Han's initial decentralization and official abandonment of Qing philosophy of legalism in favor of Confucianism, Qing's legalist institutions and policies continued to be employed by the Han government and its successors. After the end of Han Dynasty, a period of strife known as Three Kingdoms followed, whose central figures were later immortalized in one of the four classics of Chinese literature. At its end, Wei was swiftly overthrown by the Jin dynasty. The Jin fought a civil war upon the ascensions of a developmentally disabled emperor. The five barbarians then invaded and ruled northern China as the 16 states. The Shenbei unified them as the Northern Wei, whose emperor Shaowen reversed his predecessors' apartheid policies and enforced a drastic signification of his subjects, largely integrating them into Chinese culture. In the south, General Liu Yu secured the abdication of the Jin in favor of the Liu Song. The various successors of these states became known as the Northern and Southern dynasties, with the two areas finally united by the Sui in 581. The Sui restored the Han to power through China, reformed its agriculture, economy, and imperial examination system, constructed the Grand Canal, and patronized Buddhism. However, they fell quickly when their conscription for public works and the failed war in northern Korea provoked widespread unrest. Under the succeeding Tang and Song dynasties, Chinese economy, technology, and culture entered a golden age. The Tang Empire retained control of the western regions of Silk Road, which brought traders to as far as Mesopotamia and Horn Africa and made the capital Chang'an a cosmopolitan urban center. However, it was devastated and weakened by the An-Lushan rebellion in the 8th century. In 907, the town disintegrated completely when the local community governors became ungovernable. The Song dynasty entered the separatist situation in 960, leading to a balance of power between the Song and the Qidan Liao. The Song was the first government in world history to issue paper money. And the first Chinese polity to establish a permanent standing navy, which was supported by developed shipbuilding industry along with the sea trade. Between the 10th and 11th centuries, the population of China doubled in size to around 100 million people, mostly because of expansion, rice cultivation in central and southern China, and the production of abundant food surpluses. The Song dynasty also saw the revival of Confucianism in response to the growth of Buddhism during their time, and the flourishing of philosophy and arts as landscape art and porcelain were brought to new levels of maturity and complexity. However, the military weakness of the Song army was observed by the Jin dynasty. In 1127, Emperor Huizong of Song and the capital Bianliang were captured during the Jin-Song Wars. The remnants of the Song retreated to southern China. The 13th century brought the Mongol conquest of China. In 1271, the Mongol leader Kublai Khan established the Yuan dynasty. The Yuan conquered the last remnant of the Song dynasty in 1279. Before the Mongol invasion, the population of Song China was 120 million citizens. This was reduced to 60 million by the time of census in 1300. A peasant named Zhu Yuanzhang overthrew the Yuan in 1368 and founded the Ming dynasty as the Hongwu Emperor. Under the Ming Dynasty, China enjoys another golden age, developing one of the strongest navies in the world and a rich and prosperous economy amid a flourishing art and culture. It was during this period that Admiral Zheng He led the main treasure voyages throughout the Indian Ocean, reaching as far as the East Africa. In the early years of Ming Dynasty, China's capital was moved from Nanjing to Beijing. With the budding capitalism, philosophers such as Wang Yangming further critic expanded Neo-Confucianism with concepts of individualism and equality of four occupations. The scholarly straightened became a supporting force of industry and commerce in tax boycott movements, which, together with the famines and defense against Japanese invasion in Korea and the Manchu invasions, led to an exhausted treasury. In 1644, Beijing was captured by a coalition of peasant rebel forces led by Li Jiqian. The Chongzhen Emperor committed suicide when the city fell. The Manchu Qing dynasty, then allied with Ming Dynasty General Wu Shangui, overthrew Li's short-lived Shan Dynasty and subsequently seized control of Beijing, which became the new capital of Qing Dynasty. Late Imperial, the Qing Dynasty, which lasted from 1644 until 1912, was the last imperial dynasty of China. Its conquest of the Ming cost 25 million lives, and the economy of China shrank drastically. After the Southern Ming ended, the further conquest of the Zhenghe Khanate added Mongolia, Tibet, and Xinjiang to the empire. The centralized autocracy was strengthened to crack down on anti-Qing settlement with a policy of valuing agriculture and restraining commerce. The hygiene sea ban and ideological control is represented by the literary inquisition, causing social and technological stagnation. In the mid-19th century, the dynasty experienced Western imperialism in the Opium Wars with Britain and France. China was forced to pay compensation. Open treaty ports allowed extraterritoriality for foreign nationals and ceded Hong Kong to the British under the 1842 Treaty of Nanking. The first of the unequal treaties. The first Sino-Japanese War resulted in Qing-China's loss of influence in the Korean Peninsula, as well as the cession of Taiwan to Japan. The Qing dynasty also began experiencing internal unrest in which tens of millions of people died, especially in the White Lotus Rebellion, the failed Taiping Rebellion that ravaged southern China in the 1850s and the 1860s, and the Dangang Revolt in the northwest. The initial success of the South-strengthening movement of the 1860s was frustrated by serious military defeats in the 1880s and 1890s. In the 19th century, the great Chinese diaspora began. Losses due to emigration were added to by conflicts and catastrophes such as the northern Chinese famines of 1876 to 79, in which between 9 and 13 million people died. The Guangxi Emperor drafted a reform plan in 1898 to establish a modern constitutional monarchy, but these plans were thwarted by the Emperor Dowager Cixi. The ill-fated anti-throne Boxer Rebellion of 1899 to 1901 further weakened the dynasty. Although Cixi sponsored a program of reforms, the Xinhai Revolution 1911-12 brought an end to the Qing dynasty and established the Republic of China. Puyi, the last emperor of China, abdicated in 1912. Republic. On 1st January 1912, the Republic of China was established. As Sunday of China, Kuomintang was proclaimed provisional president. However, the presidency was later given to Yang Shikai, the former Qing general, who in 1915 proclaimed himself Emperor of China. In the face of public condemnation and opposition from his own Beiyang army, he was forced to abdicate and re-establish the republic. After Yuan Shikai's death in 1916, China was politically fragmented. In Beijing's base government was internationally recognized but virtually powerless. Regional warlords controlled most of its territory. In the late 1920s, the Kuomintang under Chiang Kai-shek, the then principal of the Republic of China Military Academy, was able to reunify the country under his own control with a series of adaptive military and political maneuverings, known collectively as the Northern Expedition. The Kuomintang moved the nation's capital to Nanjing and implemented political tutelage, an intermediate stage of political development outlined in Sun Yat-sen's Sanmin program for transforming China into a modern democratic state. The political division in China made it difficult for Chiang to battle the Communist People's Liberation Army, against whom the Kuomintang has been warring since 1927 in the Chinese Civil War. This war continued successfully for the Kuomintang, especially after the PLA retreated in a long march, until Japanese aggression and the 1936 Xi'an incident forced Chiang to confront Imperial Japan. The second Sino-Japanese War, a theater of World War II, forced an uneasy alliance between the Kuomintang and the PLA. Japanese forces committed numerous war atrocities against the civilian population. In all, as many as 20 million Chinese civilians died. An estimated 400,000 to 300,000 Chinese were massacred in the city of Nanjing alone during the Japanese occupation. During the war, China, along with the UK, the US, and the Soviet Union, were referred to as trusted ship of the powerful and were recognized as the Allied Big Four in the declaration by United Nations. Along with the other three great powers, China was one of the four major allies of World War II, and it was later considered one of the primary victors in the war. 我们就上集把这边念完它比较长，你就当做听力英文听力训练，你可以直接听不要看字，也可以边看字边听都可以那意思不了解，就是看我们之前的那个各集有做比较详细的解释，还要做一些引申。那最后呢，我有15个 YouTube 频道麻烦这15个全部按订阅，不要只按一个。好，这一集讲到这里。